Hello, my name is Todd Lefkoe, and I'm chairperson of East West Connections. One of my concerns is that we never notice impactful issues until they have emerged as a threat and forces beyond our power have become dominant. That is the case with artificial intelligence now. We're in the early stages without any method of recognition or understanding of many of the impacts which it might have upon us in certain areas, which is why an issue of this upon foreign policy becomes so basic. My thanks to you, our viewers, as well as the following co sponsors: the Museum of Russian Art, the Minnesota Committee on Foreign Relations, Macalester College Russian Studies Department, Global Minnesota, the International Co Roundtable, Zerkalo, the Russian Media in Minnesota, and World Without Genocide. I also wish to thank those who made tonight possible and are on scene: Catherine Galligan and Sophia Shamal. The program is being recorded and will soon be available on our social media sites. Um, I wish to introduce our brilliant moderator, Dr. Natalia Krylova. Actually, if I gave you really her background, we would be here for the full hour just discussing that. But so this is what I've basically come up with so far. Natalia Krylova is a seasoned educator and researcher with over 2 decades of experience teaching Russian culture and language in global academic studies. Her scholarship primarily focuses on Russian avant-garde art, the singer-songwriter tradition, and gender attitude studies. Dr. Krylov's academic portfolio includes about 60 peer-reviewed articles published in English and Russian, 2 monographs, and numerous presentations at national and international conferences. Beyond her academic pursuits, Dr. Krylova has held diverse administrative roles in various cultural institutions. These include serving as the Russian Center Director at the American Councils for International Education in Washington. My favorite, which is the Cultural Outreach Coordinator at Channel 2, T plus 2, and my second favorite is the idea of the Russian Program Coordinator at Concordia Languages Villages, which is one of the most successful programs in Minnesota. Most recently, she served as the Assistant Director for Academic Affairs at the University Center for International Studies at the University of Pittsburgh. Along with that, she has been one of the strongest supporters of East West and what we're seeking to do in citizen diplomacy since we began. So, for that, we thank her greatly. And Natalia, we are ready.
Всегда готов, always prepared. Wonderful introduction. I feel really humbled now to start. And I would like to greet and thank our attendees for joining us today. We have a wonderful program prepared for you. And as our distinguished president have said, my name is Natalia Krylova, and it is my honor to facilitate this webinar today. I've been a part of this wonderful group since its foundation and feel enormously grateful to its leadership for all the tremendous work they've been doing so far, and among other things, helping me, a prodigal Minnesotan, sustain my connection to Minnesota. So, as we begin, I would like to join the acknowledgement and appreciation to our loyal partners in Minnesota, including Global Minnesota, the Museum of Russian Art, Zerkalo, the Minnesota Committee of Foreign Relations, as well as World Without Genocide, a human rights organization based in St. Paul. So our program today will be exploring the impact of artificial intelligence, further related to referred to as AI, in reshaping foreign relations, its risks and benefits, and the new goals it poses for international collaboration. In today's unpredictable landscape, the rise of generative AI as a powerful new player on the international stage brings both challenges and opportunities, especially given that AI has been dramatically changing the world all along, the financial world, job markets. AI censors our communication. It selects the most relevant comments on Facebook posts for us to review. It helps to mix the leftovers in our fridge into consumable recipe. And not surprisingly, AI actively intervenes in public affairs, which brings us to a whole number of rather disturbing questions, such as Is it a panacea, a remedy for all the difficulties stemming from the human nature, our biases, our prejudices, physical and mental limitation, or vice versa? It is an existential threat to humanity, a sophisticated, quickly evolving replacement for us as a race. All of that is certainly just rhetorical questions, and I don't expect that we'll find answers for them in today's discussion. But I am absolutely sure that the two of our stellar guest speakers today, the brilliant futurists and high tech visionaries, Mr. Michael Wright and Mr. Woody Taylor, will help us to throw light on some of the gray areas of this fast expanding phenomenon. A couple of housekeeping remarks before we start. The expected duration of this webinar is about 1 hour-ish, based on how the discussion will develop. Our guests will speak consequentially in turns, starting with Mr. Taylor's presentation and followed by Mr. Wright's one. After the second presentation, we are going to invite you, our esteemed audience, to join the discussion, and you may do so by using the QA function on the Zoom screen where you can submit your questions, reflections, or just comments. And I would encourage you to do so as you're listening to our speakers, because lots of insights, lots of brilliant thoughts tend to, flee away as things unveil. And our presenters can also ask questions to each other because not all great minds think alike. And also, please be aware that this webinar is being recorded and it will be available for your viewing and sharing on our website once we are done. So, without any further ado, I am pleased to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Woody Taylor. He is the owner of Paramis.ai, a company providing services using generative AI tools. And finally, he is a senior principal consultant at Globant, a firm and an AI powerhouse that strives to bridge the gap between businesses and consumers.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here again. My name is Woody Taylor. My work involves helping companies and communities design, deploy, and use generative AI tools. And just to set things up for discussion tonight, I'm going to spend a few minutes speaking to the technical state of generative AI, as well as just machine learning in general, what's possible now and what's on the horizon. And a lot of this will be generalizations. Artificial intelligence, or said more accurately, machine learning, is a very broad field, more so than tools like ChatGPT that you've heard about. But it should set some appropriate context for us. And I'll say in advance, it's kind of a somber message that I'll be delivering, but I am a proponent of artificial intelligence, as it simply has the potential to fix so many of our problems. But we have a lot of work to get to those outcomes, especially for the general good and not for the select few. As mentioned, Michael Wright will follow with broader commentary on how AI fits in today's state of foreign policy. And just for fun to start things off and to demonstrate some of the capabilities out there, you'll probably see a moving image in front of you on the slide. I created this actually yesterday, just using a video generation tool called Runway ML. All I did was type the text that you see below that moving image. And a minute or so later, I have my video. So we truly are in a novel time in human history, and these changes are only going to accelerate. And the lack of meaningful discussion around AI during the recent US elections was unfortunate, as it would have been a good time for candidates to start a national dialogue around what we want from advances in artificial intelligence. We're facing one of the most transformative technologies in human history, yet both the possibilities and risks of AI remain wildly understood, commonly speaking. As a country, as well as a member of the global community, the US still lacks common objectives and common governance frameworks for how these tools will evolve in our world. Many of these tools, as I've seen in my own work, already have the potential to reshape global society, our known economic systems, and really who we are as humans. Yet we're in kind of an embryonic stage right now. These tools are still imperfect and are generally constrained within their environments. Now, those constraints are rapidly changing. The pace of AI advancement outstrips anything that we've previously known. If the world felt like it's spinning faster in recent years, AI is a primary reason. But despite this, we're still woefully unprepared. Both domestically and globally, we lack the guidance and cooperation needed to harness these technologies responsibly. We have a lot of benefits to realize with AI, like increased equity, solutions to improve our natural environment, better health and increased longevity, and incredible advancements in every domain of science. However, in the short term, we're in for a bit of a rough patch, where the capabilities of these tools already outpace our society's abilities to fully digest their implications. These tools are at a state of what I call super persuasion, with capabilities equal to or surpassing human skills, and are now developing their own sense of agency, meaning the ability to act autonomously and outside of previously restricted environments they were in. With the recent election of Donald Trump, coupled with the growing influence of technical oligarchs, the path to AI development will likely be shaped by a mix of political and corporate agendas strongly focused on unfettered deregulation, more isolationist policies, a de-emphasis in safety concerns, and with an uncertain commitment to the common good of humanity. And just to give you some context, here's a snapshot of where we are today. And let's talk about persuasion first. Coca-Cola just released its new Christmas video, the iconic polar bear videos. And what's groundbreaking about it is that the entire ad was made of generative AI. No actors, no production crews, just someone typing commands into a computer. These tools are now capable of creative writing, images, and videos that match or exceed human capability. Relative to reasoning, AI's predictive capabilities are astonishing. Recent studies show that humans often prefer the medical advice of AI to their own primary care physicians. AI can now predict crimes before they happen with 90% accuracy. These developments hold incredible promise, but also raise profound ethical and privacy concerns. Now on to this notion of agency, and this is one of the more interesting statistics I've heard this year. Up until really through about May or June of this year, Amazon saw about 150 million hacking attempts per day. The last few months, that number has gone up to 750 million hacking attempts per day. And that's not just AI hacking autonomously or based as part of a suite of programs, but it's also that it simply enables more people to understand more complex topics like hacking and to execute on these things with unprecedented ease. The scale of cyber threats truly has grown exponentially because of these tools. Relative to emotional intelligence, ChatGPT, for instance, has an advanced voice mode that can detect emotional states based on conversational tones. And this is something that you can download to your phone tonight if you wanted to. These are not scientific things that are away from our particular reach. They're right there in our hands. And these advancements blur the line between machines and humans, raising real questions about how we'll interact with technology because of these tools and how we'll interact with them in these deeply personal ways. Progression is another critical point. AI-generated visuals are improving monthly. You can just see here, for example, these are the same prompts that are kicking out the same images. Compare March 2022 to just 18 months later in December 2023. And you'll see a leap in quality that's really nothing short of extraordinary. The pace of improvement is not slowing down, it's accelerating. And finally, even robots are getting in on things. We can consider the Terminator here. This is a robot dog equipped with a flamethrower that shoots flames about 30 feet. It's available for under $10,000. It's currently legal in 48 US states. It's a lot to take in. So not just generative AI, but machine learning is enabling creation of cheap, precise, and deadly weapons in a largely unregulated environment. The implications, not just for warfare, but for our own public safety, are really staggering. So now let's look at the future of AI intelligence. And while IQ is a poor measure by lots of different standards, and there's lots of different ways to measure the effectiveness of this tools, let's just talk about IQ for a minute, since it tends to normalize things a little bit better for folks. Until recently, AI tools had an IQ equivalency of 70 to 90 tools had an IQ equivalency of 70 to 90 or so. But OpenAI's new O1 model, which I'll demonstrate to you all shortly, tested out at an IQ of 122 on a blind Mensa test that was prepared for it. This model actually thinks aloud, and you'll see it, reasoning through problems step by step. It's both incredible and intimidating. And at the moment, these tools lack full agency and the ability to interact autonomously with their environments, but that too is coming. For example, Claude AI, a tool from Anthropic, has a new feature that can take over your computer to perform tasks. And even this O1 model that I'm talking about right now is showing an alarming trend. While it was being developed during what they call red teaming, where essentially they have a lot of hackers try to attack it and make it do good and bad things, it schemed against its commands approximately 2 to 5% of the time. And when it detected that it might be shut down, it actually tried to duplicate itself in a way that its creators could not detect. And it wasn't successful in this, but yeah, just pretty unsettling. And the whole notion of model alignment, of controlling these tools, is getting more and more difficult the smarter and smarter they get. The implications for humanity are vast, for better or worse. This trajectory will only accelerate. Most AI experts predict we'll reach a point where AI surpasses human intelligence by the end of this decade. For perspective, in 2019, these technologies were only at a reasoning level of a typical preschooler. So the question isn't if these things get smarter, but it's how we'll actually navigate this transition. These advancements have profound implications for foreign policy. AI's growing capabilities are going to redefine how nations compete, cooperate, and govern in a very interconnected world. And decisions made today, decisions made in the next few months and the next few short years really will shape global stability tomorrow. So I thought it'd be fun, just to abridge kind of this somber message here. I wanted to share a brief demonstration of the O1 model. Like humans, sometimes it gets things right and sometimes it doesn't. If I'm doing the demo, it usually fails, but we'll see. But this is actually a pretty good model. But just imagine if somebody walked up to you on the street and said, count the number of words in your response to me. Think just for a second about how you'd respond. You'd probably have to pause, think through this little logic puzzle, and reason through it. And that's exactly what you're about to see with this O1 model. Something not human at all, acting very human. So let's take a look. I'm going to switch over to ChatGPT here. And I did go ahead and drop the question in here, or the prompt that I'm going to send. I've got the O1 model. And I'm going to hit return here, and you're going to see the machine start to think. And I'll explain more about that in just one moment. Should take it about 10 or 15 seconds to get through this. It likes to spend time thinking, which is actually why it's so powerful. It simply doesn't try to answer quickly like previous models did. So it's going through these iterations. It's crafting a stable response. And while it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and click on this thought process, and you'll see that it starts to map out how it is thinking aloud. It starts by counting words, crafting a stable response, streamlining the word count. This is all basically its own self-awareness self-awareness driving it through that kind of directive path. And you can see its response is this response, which I am writing, has 10 words total. So pretty impressive stuff from O1. Even just a simple logic puzzle gets pretty interesting, especially when you can see how these machines think. And this particular notion of reasoning, this self-taught reasoning, is going to be how these tools advance more and more in the coming years. Really just an incredible time to see these tools start to emerge, but a different question on how we'll control it. So thanks for your attention, and I'm going to hand it over to Mike.
Michael Wright is a seasoned high-tech executive at scale and a visionary leader who guides technology innovation and convergence across industries. He is the CEO and the founding partner of Intercepting Horizons, a strategic foresight and management consulting firm that helps organizations navigate the rapidly changing business landscape and seize emerging opportunities. He is also a board member or advisor for multiple companies and nonprofits in the fields of AI, automation, smart glass, and health. He's also a former professor of the Carlson School of Management, University of Minnesota, where he taught strategic leadership and authors a plethora of articles on technology and business. And he's the author of the recently released title, The Exponential Era. And it kind of relates very tightly to the topic of our discussion today. Thank you so much. And Michael, the cyber floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd. So I hope everyone in the cheap seats can hear okay. The basis for this particular presentation is the generation by AI with some of the tools that Woody talked about. We did not go so far as to create video imaging, but we could have. We spent quite some time looking at different platforms and working with different platforms. One of those is preempt.life that is really probably at the head of the stack in terms of looking at foresight, looking around corners and using AI to do so. But to give you an example, what you're going to see is the result of over 1,000 prompts, 3,000 questions, and about 5 different platforms, including Claude, Perplexity, and others. And we asked AI to go out and take a look at all that, come back with a summary that would be appropriate for this audience, and develop sort of a report, if you will, which we then turned into a script, which we then turned into a presentation.
Welcome, and thank you for joining this critical discussion on the intersection of artificial intelligence and foreign policy. The rapid advancements in AI are not just technological milestones. They are reshaping the very foundations of diplomacy, security, and international cooperation. Today, we will explore the dual nature of AI as both an opportunity and a challenge. And we will chart a course for ethical, inclusive, and strategic integration of AI into global governance. AI is redefining foreign policy by reshaping how nations interact, negotiate, and govern. Its transformative potential spans areas such as diplomacy, security, governance, and global crisis management. Yet, alongside these opportunities, AI introduces risks, amplified by its ability to disrupt existing power structures and norms. The challenge before us is clear. How do we harness AI's capabilities to foster cooperation, mitigate conflict, and promote equity on the global stage? It has the power to be a strategic enabling platform at the very core of global diplomacy. As we explore these themes, consider carefully the role of collaboration and ethical intervention as the cornerstone of any effective AI-enabled policy strategy. AI influences foreign policy through 4 critical dimensions. First, in military power, AI drives advancements in autonomous systems and real-time intelligence, altering the balance of power. Second, in diplomacy, AI's predictive capabilities refine negotiation strategies and enhance alliance building. Third, AI plays a vital role in safeguarding democracy by combating misinformation and securing electoral integrity. However, these same technologies can be weaponized by authoritarian regimes to erode trust and suppress dissent. The dual-use nature of AI requires a nuanced and vigilant approach to its governance. Foreign policy has evolved significantly over time, and AI represents a transformative phase in this evolution. Historical diplomacy relied on human intuition and slow-moving bureaucratic systems. Today, AI accelerates this process, offering precision, speed, and adaptability. The adoption of interconnected systems, from IoT to 5G, further amplifies AI's reach. Consider the US's use of AI to optimize military logistics in the Pacific or the European Union's push for ethical AI governance. These examples illustrate both the possibilities and the challenges of integrating AI into global strategies. AI offers unparalleled opportunities in foreign policy. Predictive analytics can preempt conflicts. Data-driven partnerships enhance economic cooperation, and adaptive governance frameworks bring innovative solutions to long-standing challenges. However, these benefits come with significant risks. Without proper oversight, AI's power could concentrate in the hands of a few, creating a digital feudalism where inequalities deepen and ignorance accelerates. Moreover, algorithmic misuse, whether intentional or unintentional, could destabilize fragile systems, leading to conflict or mistrust. Striking the right balance between innovation and regulation is paramount. Different nations approach AI governance through distinct strategies, reflecting their unique priorities and challenges. The United States leads in innovation but struggles with fragmented regulations. China, on the other hand, leverages a centralized approach to assert dominance while maintaining tight control. The European Union prioritizes ethical AI, yet its implementation is inconsistent. Meanwhile, smaller nations like South Korea exemplify collaborative models, using AI partnerships to punch above their weight on the global stage. These diverse strategies highlight the need for global alignment to manage AI's cross-border implications. Whether AI will influence collaboration remains to be seen. Our biological evolution lags far, far behind the technological advancements of AI. This mismatch creates significant challenges. Humans are prone to biases like anchoring and tribalism, which can distort AI's outputs. Additionally, the sheer speed and volume of AI-generated data can overwhelm traditional decision-making processes. To address this, we must develop AI systems that align with human cognitive rhythms, train policymakers to navigate technological complexity, and adopt deliberative AI models that slow down to meet human needs. Success lies in harmonizing technology's pace with human capacity. Our human DNA predisposes us to focus on immediate rewards and observable threats, a trait shaped by millennia of survival in much, much simpler environments. This bias conflicts with the abstract, complex decision-making required for AI governance in the exponential era. By embedding reflective mechanisms into AI systems and leveraging tools like digital water modeling and constructal flow analysis, we can counteract these instincts and create governance frameworks that align with long-term ethical priorities. Symbiotic decision. Intelligence represents a collaborative approach where human oversight complements AI's computational power. SDI tools help navigate complex geopolitical landscapes, providing real-time insights while respecting human values. Scenario planning becomes more dynamic, enabling policymakers to adapt to unforeseen challenges. This symbiosis ensures that AI does not replace human decision-making but enhances it, preserving much-needed ethical integrity while leveraging AI's strengths. We didn't get here today alone or out of the blue. Months of studying the space and using some of the most sophisticated AI-driven tools for foresight and decision-making. Billions of data points examined, over 1,000 pages of reports, all to find the drivers and hone the recommendations. We've been working with all of these platforms, Deep Dive for current peer-reviewed research, Incubig.org for patent activity, patent trends and clusters, shapingtomorrow.com for finding linear relationships and connections between trends, and the most advanced foresight tool on the market today, Preempt.life, built with over 750 strategic foresight prompts. It takes a holistic look at the subject and returns recommendations, insights, strategies, and evidence to support them. Trust in AI depends on data provenance, the ability to trace and verify the origins and journey of data used in decision-making. Blockchain technology offers one solution, providing secure, immutable records that can underpin diplomatic exchanges. Standardized frameworks like PROV-DM further enhance transparency, while visual tools empower policymakers to understand and evaluate AI-driven decisions. Data provenance is not just a technical issue, it is a cornerstone of trust and accountability in AI governance. To expand on the importance of adopting standardized frameworks for data transparency. Common language. Standardized frameworks provide a common language and understanding of data provenance concepts. Interoperability. Standardization ensures that systems and tools can work together seamlessly, facilitating data sharing and analysis. Compliance and auditability. By adhering to common standards, organizations can more easily demonstrate compliance. Fostering trust. Demonstrating commitment to transparency and accountability through the adoption of standardized frameworks helps build trust among stakeholders. By rallying organizations and stakeholders around standardized frameworks, we can create a shared foundation for data transparency that enables better decision-making, collaboration, and trust building. Left unchecked, AI risks creating a new form of feudalism where power and resources are concentrated among a small elite. This digital feudalism undermines democracy and exacerbates inequality. To counter this, we must prioritize decentralization, democratizing access to AI tools and knowledge. Citizen diplomacy plays a vital role here, empowering grassroots movements to hold governments and corporations accountable. Only by distributing AI's benefits equitably can we ensure a just and inclusive future. AI's predictive capabilities are game-changing for crisis management. Imagine a system that can identify emerging tensions, analyze potential outcomes, and recommend preemptive measures, all in real time. Such tools are already being tested. For instance, India's AI-enabled peacekeeping initiatives have shown promise in reducing regional conflicts. Predictive AI also plays a role in cyber diplomacy, helping nations anticipate and counteract digital threats. The goal is to move from reactive crisis management to proactive peacekeeping. Ethical governance is the foundation for responsible AI integration. This includes establishing global norms to prevent misuse, fostering AI literacy among policymakers, and starting with low-risk applications, such as disaster management, to build trust. Ethical AI is not just about compliance. It is about ensuring that AI serves humanity's best interests, fostering equity, transparency, and accountability in its deployment. As one expert put it, ethical AI is not optional. It's essential for preventing geopolitical fractures. However, we humans can mess up decision-making with biases like anchoring and tribalism. Here's what we can do to fix that. Make AI tools that work with our human brains so we can make better choices together. Teach policymakers how to use AI in their decision-making so they can keep up with the changing world. Use AI models that work at a pace that makes sense for humans so we don't feel overwhelmed. To sum up, we need to find a way to bring humans and AI together in a way that makes the most of both our strengths and leverages citizen diplomacy. Citizen diplomacy is a powerful force for ensuring AI's equitable integration into global policies. AI-driven platforms can amplify public voices, enabling citizens to advocate for transparency and accountability in international relations. Examples from India and elsewhere show how grassroots initiatives can influence policy, ensuring that AI serves the broader public interest. Citizen engagement is not just a safeguard, it is a catalyst for innovation and inclusion. AI offers an opportunity to modernize diplomacy, replacing outdated systems with adaptive, cloud-based solutions. AI-mediated platforms enhance communication, transparency, and trust, enabling faster and more selective decision-making. Imagine a future where diplomats use AI tools to visualize complex negotiations, anticipate outcomes, and craft strategies that build consensus. This transformation is not just about efficiency, it is about reimagining diplomacy for the 21st century. Collaboration is the key to unlocking AI's potential while managing its risks. Multilateral coalitions can harmonize AI policies across borders. Shared research hubs can bridge technological divides, and public-private partnerships can foster innovation while addressing ethical concerns. By working together, nations can build a unified approach to AI governance that prioritizes shared values over individual agendas. The future of AI in foreign policy is being written today. It is up to us to ensure that this future is equitable, ethical, and inclusive. By embracing collaboration, fostering transparency, and committing to shared prosperity, we can harness AI as a force for good. Let us act decisively to shape AI's role in diplomacy, not as a tool of division, but as a bridge to understanding and cooperation. Thank you for your attention and attendance tonight.
I was just going to say, it's kind of a summary, what you saw and what that presentation is, and the recommendations that AI is making was recommendations from AI to us as though we were diplomats adopting it. And so one of the things that I did go back and ask it, it came back with sort of a disconcerting answer was, there's an emphasis on ethical frameworks and ethical boundaries and cooperation. The question is, how do you enforce that and how do you make that happen? The answer was less than warming, let's put it that way. It basically said political will. So what it's going to take in order to really optimize and use AI the way that it's recommending we use it is political will. So I found that extremely insightful and interesting. And I hope that our audience does too. I'm glad that we recorded it and that it's there for everyone to see and use. And all I would say to kind of add to the conversation, from having traveled around the world, spent most of my life in technology, that this is a point of departure. This is something that it's unlikely we'll see another jump like this in civilization and what can be done. And I know that's a lot of hype and overemphasis, but ChatGPT has over 300 million users. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of activity. Now, some of those are not necessarily in the best interest for everyone in terms of how they use it, but it is going to take political will. Perhaps we can use AI to help us develop that political will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. On this happy note, I would like to express our appreciation to our speakers for sharing this breathtaking and thought-provoking image of the bright new world. I would like to start with one of my questions. In fact, I meant to ask it in the very end, but since we were talking about such unthinkable phenomena as AI oligarchies, digital feudalism, and so forth, well, a linguist inside myself was screaming and kicking. It's the change of our way of seeing the world and talking about the world and so forth. And as a linguist and a member of the foreign language education community, I can see that lots of my colleagues are currently as excited as they are alerted about the future of education, for instance, how many jobs are going to be extinct, right? Or they're going to disappear. And since we're talking about foreign diplomacy, foreign affairs, and so forth, I looked at the list of the jobs that people may search for and take if they are pursuing careers in international affairs. And my question is, which of these jobs do you think are going to disappear first? So here is the list: foreign service officer, political consultant, government affairs coordinator, regulatory affairs manager, intelligence research associate, nonprofit program coordinator, human rights officer, and translator. So, which of these professions are subject to extinction due to the progress with artificial intelligence?
Michael, feel free to follow up. I think virtually all knowledge roles are going to be impacted in some way, shape, or form by these technologies. If you are not using your hands to do your work, I would count on a lot of impact sooner than those that might be relying on just their own dexterity, their own manual labor to accomplish tasks. Work like translation work is evaporating pretty quickly, unfortunately. Just because the real-time translation capabilities of these tools, and ChatGPT, for instance, I think is up to about 133 languages that it speaks very well right now. The ability to have a universal translator there in your pocket obviously has that kind of impact. But, it really is about, hopefully what it becomes about in short term is, for most roles, is really just allowing people to focus more on the value-added aspects of those jobs. AI makes you faster at work. You're able to consume more work, and you generally, and from what I've seen from students that I've taught, the quality of your work goes up as well. And it's usually because people can focus on the primary things that are associated with their job, not the administrative bureaucratic aspects that come along with it. However, we are going to see a lot of job displacement, very significant job displacement, particularly in more tactical reasoning capabilities like accounting and things like that. It's going to have a lot of impact, and it's the general fallback that most people claim is that, well, we'll have new industries that get created, that there's going to be that many more jobs out for people. Jobs like accounting roles aren't necessarily ever going to be replaced at the rate that they were created. So it's really going to be contingent on a lot of cooperation and collaboration to find what we are going to do with time and what we are going to do with new types of jobs that emerge. My biggest concern is the gap between these jobs going away and those jobs, those new jobs coming online for people to consume. It really will be a challenge here in the next, probably next 3 to 6 years. And Michael, I'll let you chime in as well.
It's a very good summary of what that is there. I think the translator piece, all that, that's pretty much already there. I think, you can almost categorize it as repetitive activity. Whatever's repetitive, AI can learn quickly. And especially it can go broader and deeper. Whenever we run something today, let's say on Preempt or something, we actually have a comparison. We did one for an agency that I won't mention in a foreign country. It happens to be an ally, that's good. But they took 70 people in 6 months. We took 3 people in 1 month, and we delivered almost an identical report. In fact, in some ways it was better. So there is that type of processing. As we get more trust, and that is a big issue. The oligarchic structure, I wrote about this in 2018, that AI was going to tend that way because of the capital hurdle rates that it takes, the manpower that it takes, the machines that it takes, the chips that it takes, and that only being accessible to a few, not just well-funded, but well-schooled, well-trained people to actually execute. Will that get better? Will there be people that find, like we do, or like most executives do, you act on little bits of information? The other part is when you look at researchers, the amount of research and the tools that are there can get, better than 90% of it, to Woody's earlier point. Now you come back and say, well, the remaining piece requires a human, and that's why we said symbiotic, a human agent or human agents to go in and look at and now determine strategy and take the best from it and do something different. At the end of the day, it starts to become something about my AI versus your AI. And that's the game that we're seeing played out now by restricting access to certain technologies. However, there's always a workaround. For everything that we do on silicon, there's also photonics that's developing. China's doing that. Fortunately, IBM just came out with a photonic chip that does the processing in light and then pushes it on through. So that's going to continue to be that race. The other is the transition cost that Woody touched on. Because it's going to, when we went from farms to industry, there was a huge disruption, a huge transition piece. Is there going to be another transition piece? The answer is yes. Will it be comfortable? Everyone hopes so. If we can make people just more productive, that will cover a lot of the pain. But if that productivity slows down, then I think we will have more challenges with the transition.
Oh, yeah.
Natalia, back to you or to our audience, or Woody?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And Natalia,
Okay,
did
Woody.
you, it looks like Mark Jorgensen had asked a question. I don't know if you saw that in there.
Not really, but there is a very kind of topical and relevant question coming from Todd about the truth and trust that we've been just discussing. And we can take Mark's question right after that. So Todd was wondering, with the expansion of AI and virtual reality, almost every recent election was filled with all kinds of cases of fake news, mistruths, and so forth. How will we define truth in the future with AI being the major player, not the new superpower?
I think that's going to come down to that point that was touched on both by the AI and our human players in the presentation. It's data provenance. And that's a word that you're going to hear, I think, more and more and more. It is going to be the gold standard. It's everything from where your sensor touches something to the information that it derives from it and pushes all the way up to a dashboard. You're going to have to make sure that that data was not corrupted, was not changed. Now, we've already started to do this in blockchain and others. Blockchain can be beat, but it takes a huge amount of energy to do that. And nobody's really got that energy. So there is some safety there. But I think that is going to be where we see a word that is going to creep in slowly but surely is data provenance. I'll buy what you have to say if you can show me where the data came from and it's true, that it's factual.
Yeah.
That piece is where the arguments are going to, I think, develop. I think it's also going to be a case of who controls the narrative at that point.
Yeah, that's that's what I was just about to chime in on. You know, kind of the flip side of that is I remember very well Bill Barr in an interview a few years ago basically declared that, well, history is written by the winners. And that sets us up for a lot of problems. I will not, I won't downplay it at all. I think finding truths, real objective truths that are rational and widely embraced are going to be more and more difficult, at least in the short term, because there simply are so many different ways people can find information that, again, to Michael's presentation, tends to back up their own anchoring and their own confirmation bias about what may or may not be true, or simply what is convenient to them. And I think there's a certain amount of altruistic destruction that might be coming into play in a lot of different nations, including the US, where people simply want to get back to some sort of social fabric that they understand, and they're willing to forsake just basic rationalism to get there. So it's going to become more and more problematic, I believe, over time. And Natalia, I see two questions now in the Q&A box from Mark and Tom.
Correct. Please feel free to pick Mark's question. I may read it if you wish. So if we need to rely on ethical and inclusive AI development, how can we factor in authoritarian governments, which generally aren't necessarily ethical and inclusive to begin with? It is Russia, Hungary, etc. Political will seems to simply fall short as the answer. And this is where we need diplomacy at its highest level. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's
counter arguments.
You know, for the authoritarian governments, AI policy has been part of their strategy to get ahead of other nations. Putin is on record as far back as 2017 as saying the first person to AGI, or artificial general intelligence, the first country that gets there wins. And that's a pretty famous quotation from him. China in particular, most of their AI development, and this will kind of speak to the Tom, to the question that follows this one, is very much linked into their national strategy and their own sort of need to, or for global domination. And unfortunately, it's not just the intelligence of these tools that China is at least, I guess, on par with the United States right now, or slightly behind. China actually has a much more global infrastructure to accommodate whatever sort of AIs finally mature out of all of this. Those Chinese safe cities, there's about 140 or so throughout the world, in Europe, on every continent right now, which are all set up with the kind of surveillance systems and things like that, which the Chinese government has used to quell dissent in their own populace. They simply have a large surveillance state, which is set up, which is just ready-made for these AI tools to take advantage of. So, Mark, your overall point about this is where we need diplomacy at its highest level, I agree 10,000%. I am very concerned about who would be the diplomats the next couple of years, trying to afford that kind of thing for us. So it's a lot to worry about.
It is diplomacy at the highest level. It's been suggested that we treat AI and its proliferation much the same as we treated nuclear power and nuclear war. The war is going to be over narratives. It's over who controls the narrative and how quickly it's controlled and by whom. I think that part is going to, start to be, at some point, the nations have to get together and go, wait a minute, this is true, that's not true. And we've got to come to some agreement.
Yep.
Can we create an arbitrary body again? Can we give the UN more power again? I don't know. But I do believe that people are going to realize this is mutual destruction at its best. Because even if we hit a point of singularity, it'll be that fast you won't notice that it happened. And now it's in a whole new ball game. And whether or not we can put that one back in the box, who knows? Yes, you can assume that each country will have its own AI. However, there is something called data colonization that's taking place. You're a small country. Your GDP is way less than the market cap of the three biggest players out there. And they are providing you with data management. They're providing you with AI.
Yeah.
But they're reaching across your border to get that data. They now have extracted that data, which is money. It's the same as data mining or mining for real minerals. You now have pulled that data, add it to your knowledge, add it to your capability. That's a form of colonization because they didn't pay you for it.
Yeah.
I didn't pay, I just took it. So that's an interesting one that's going to come up as well. Third question, Sean. It's been a recent topic of discussion, Defense Language Institute. Yep, AI has had its place. Mass translation on a bulk level. What AI cannot do is replace human understanding of nuances, not only in translation. All those things. For example, AI's current form could not analyze and understand something as basic in diplomacy as Machiavellianism because AI in its current form cannot allow and compensate for and put in math. Well, I would disagree with that, given what we've been able to do with preamp.life. We've asked for counterfactual. We've used swarming. There's a bunch of other things. So I'm not sure that that's an up-to-date understanding of what it can do. I'm happy to take that offline and run it and see what happens. But
yeah, and I guess, well, and just to chime in on that, I'm probably in a similar camp with Michael there in terms, I mean, I do think there are serious constraints towards us achieving artificial general intelligence in the near future in terms of the true context and just general awareness that, what we call common sense is pretty hard to replicate right now in these AI systems as they stand. However, the caution I would throw out to anybody around this whole notion of, well, it'll never be as smart as us. It'll be plenty dangerous when it's 75% as smart as us, and that's the thing that I get concerned about when I do see discussions around whether or not it'll ever be smarter than us. Is just, hey, it'll be plenty powerful well before then. And we're already kind of at that point. And certainly the next generation of generative AI models will go past that. But there's always going to be those kinds of limitations. But I don't think that's necessarily a great thing, because that does also mean that you've got an extraordinarily powerful machine intelligence that might think that it is on human terms.
Dima's question, I think, is very interesting. Nuance, you're absolutely right. It'll take a long time for the machine to get to nuance.
Yeah,
and that's especially true in complex languages like Chinese, etc. However, it will get there.
Yeah,
you're dealing with the ability to crunch massive numbers. Tom, your question: won't AI eventually conclude that we are the problem?
Yeah, it might.
It might, and in some respects, it already has. However, what it has done repeatedly in all of the responses that we've gotten, when we ask it for a holistic, and you'll see it over and over. You saw it in the presentation that it said there's the ethical piece. It's almost like we're trying to tell ourselves we need something because we're the ones that are feeding the machine. The machine's giving us that mirrored answer back and says, hey, based on all of this, this is what you really want.
Now there's, on a happy note though, and this is actually, so there is one happy response I can give tonight. And that's Dima, your question. She said, not a question, but a comment rather. We've been using AI successfully in translating several journals into English. And while the role of translators is indeed diminished, the role of editors has become even more important. And that is exactly the kind of thing I talk about with knowledge workers every day that you're pulling out there, Dima. It's getting rid of some of that non-value added work in terms of just getting words on paper. And that allows you to assert your true value add, your true educational experience, your true experiential value into making work product better. So whereas, on a measurable terms, depending on what study you say, you generally see that it increases speed of work anywhere from 12 to 25%. In my case, as a consultant, the management consultant, that number is probably north of 50%. But quality of work tends to increase at least 40% when these tools are deployed. People simply have more time to look at the work that they're doing, to take different kinds of risks. That's one of the good things about AI. It absolutely allows us to assert in more value added capabilities we have with people simply because we're shuffling paper less. And that just raises the overall quality of our outputs and really is a good story in the midst of a lot of heavier implications.
Thank you so much. How about the Thomas question? Did we cover it?
I think Noreen asked one. Let's.
We did cover Todd. Noreen, how will we prevent the democratization and proliferation of AI from accelerating climate change with all of its? Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of things with that one. One is, if you're not familiar with Moore's law, I would recommend that you get familiar with it. Moore's law is what's driven this entire revolution, if you will. It's really an observation about exponential change, but it just basically said we would double the amount of transistors on the same size every 2 years. You translate that the other way, and computational power is going up the other way. So it's doubling every 2 years or thereabouts. How do you prevent, or how is it going to accelerate climate change? What we're looking at today is we take the numbers of the number of chips, we take the amount of computing that we need to do, and we say, well, we need a data center this big, and it takes this much energy to do that. The issue then becomes one of what's already happening is NVIDIA, IBM, others are working to bring that power load down. Built an infrastructure that allows a certain amount of power, you just allowed them to increase their computing power almost free. I think they're aware of it. I think that they're making huge steps to do that. And I think AI will help us bring down the power concentration or the power cost. We'll find ways to operate those. I mean, Microsoft is looking at, mini nuclear power plants, et cetera, that are highly safe and all that good stuff to address that problem.
And Noreen, in its own way, just to follow things, one of the bigger concerns that I have around the notion of addressing climate change is that I think AI will be such a huge issue that will consume a lot of different attentions that we simply won't be able to follow out a lot of the commitments that we've made around trying to fight climate change. I just think it is going to be something that drops in as a equal priority, but it's very near term, whereas of course climate change is slightly more subjective depending on what latitude you're sitting on. But at the end of the day, this will be such a large issue and such a large source of investment and social change, Noreen. I get somewhat concerned that it might start to displace the prioritization that we might have around events like, or issues like climate change itself. So really, it's one of those things that is existential as climate change itself. Is just happening a lot faster than climate change is, and that can be a problem. Just simply by displacement of priorities.
The other thing is that AI can help proliferate knowledge about climate change and what the real effects and ramifications are. And it can help, insurance companies. It can help, disaster recovery, logistics. There's all kinds of things that AI can do there.
And I'm optimistic about it finding solutions. I'm concerned about it essentially, we've taken our eyes off the ball for climate change for, at least in the United States, for a significant amount of time now. And this will only perpetuate that, I think, certainly within the new administration and the next, couple of years beyond it.
Up on the optimistic message rather than the somber one at this point.
Yeah.
And I appreciate so much your insightful and thought-provoking talks, guys. And I would also like to thank our audience for bearing with us and being so engaged and asking all these insightful and very well-informed questions. I believe this topic definitely has lots of potential, and hopefully in the future we can continue the series. But given the time limitations, I need to give the floor to Todd Lefkoe for concluding notes and maybe a couple of announcements.
Thank you. And um, I want to thank both Woody and Michael, who are two of the brighter minds that I know. I want to thank Natalia for doing an excellent job, and in this, I want to thank Sophia Shamael and Catherine Galligan for their often unrecognized leadership in allowing us to do this. I also want to thank our co-sponsors, the Museum of Russian Art, the Minnesota Committee on Foreign Relations, McAllister College Russian Studies Department, Global Minnesota, the International Co-Roundtable, Zedekalo, the Russian Media in Minnesota, and World Without Genocide. There's still, I'm going to do two other things before we finish. One is one is thank all of you for watching, and there'll be a great number more when we send it out on AI channels, which is something to use AI to discuss AI, which I think Michael did brilliantly in terms of the concept and what was done. Secondly, is the idea that we're expanding our programs, not just in the kind of programs, but in the idea of the audiences. We're looking for people to write for us and to basically use their efforts in terms of knowledge of anything from legal systems to the idea of social media to the idea of writing and communications. That's an area that we are growing in and growing in rapidly. And so if you're interested in that, I think our listing the how to contact us on through our website on East West Connections is possible. Secondly, is the idea we have future programs coming up. One and these will start in January, hopefully, discussing social welfare in Russia at the moment. Secondly, doing our second in a series of film programs with the partnership of one of the major Russian cultural organizations and a few other things that we're developing at the moment. So keep tuned. If you want to hook in with us in any way, just contact me or contact, well, if you contact the organization, you will contact me. So with that, thank you. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I hope to see you soon in the future. So, as we say, God bless and go in peace. Thank you.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.